and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Megha Sharma. The execution of Nimisha Priya, who is on death row in Yemen, may have been put on hold for a day, but the family of the former business partner and victim Talal Abdo Mehdi seems unrelenting and has sought strict application of God's law in Qisas, in a development that could signal more trouble for the Indian nurse. Priya's execution, initially scheduled for 16th of July, was postponed after persistent diplomatic efforts by the Indian government and involvement of prominent religious figures from Kerala, including Grand Mufti of India. Today, let's take a deep dive into Qisas, the Islamic law that could decide Indian nurse Nimisha Priya's fate. Under Yemen's Islamic legal system, the principle of Qisas allows the victim's family to seek retributive justice, typically the death penalty in case of murder. It is legally enforceable in several countries that follow Sharia-based criminal justice systems. Either fully or partially under Sharia law in Yemen, the victim's family also has the option to pardon the accused in return for Diyah or blood money, a financial settlement intended to promote reconciliation. Given that Mehdi's family is unwilling to budge from its stand, the enforcement of Qisas means unless the victim's family chooses to forgive or alters its position, the death sentence legally stands and cannot be overturned. So what's next as far as the case is concerned? Let's start our conversation. Joining me on the telecast is Major Muhammad Ali Shah, and I would seek a response from you about this sorry state of affairs that Nimisha finds herself in. It has been years since the legal case has been going on under the Sharia law in Yemen, under the rule of the Houthis, which have been designated as terrorists by several countries. The fate of Nimisha hangs in balance, and it is the Sharia law under which the blood money that has been offered from Nimisha's side is not being accepted. Retributive justice or Qisa is what the family is demanding. Now, here the conundrum is about what is wrong, what is right, what is the limit of taking an action, announcing that it is going to be execution by shooting of the individual for the crime that she has committed. Is it going too far? And how do we compare the legalese and the laws that are present in democracies versus what happens in Islamic law, and particularly in Yemen, that is the government that is in place, which is not even recognized by countries across the globe?
Right, Megha. See, if I go to the background of this, Nimisha Priya, who's 37 years old, the nurse from Kerala, and she had moved to Yemen in the year 2008. She was found guilty of the murder in 2017 of a former Yemeni business partner, Talal Abdo Mehdi, with whom she was running this clinic over there. And what we could gather to learn is Talal Abdo Mehdi had confiscated her passport, and in order to retrieve it back, apparently she sedated him, but he died due to an overdose, and then there were murder charges on her and such things. Well, this was a case where it was in Yemen they had sentenced her to death, but I think it's good news for Indians that it's been postponed, and I hope we get more time to negotiate with them, and in fact I hope we get her back to India safely, because the very fact is the safety of every single Indian outside the country. It is, we have to look after their interests. And I can I'll give you a small anecdote on this, Megha. I'll quickly finish this in a minute. There was a time when I was captured by insurgents in the northeast part of India while serving in the army, and we were to be put to death in cold blood, and we got a few seconds more to live. And those few seconds led to a few minutes, that led to a few hours, and that led to me being here today, sitting here and talking to you. So I think when a postponement like this happens, if we get enough reaction time to actually negotiate and to find a way So I presume and I hope that we get our citizen back to India safely, Megha.
I'm going to get a response from Gautam Mukherjee as well. Gautam, I was trying to get into the discussion the very legitimacy of the Houthi government, which has not been recognized by any country except for Iran, and therefore the legitimacy of the Sharia law that exists over there. And in those terms, how acceptable is Qisas around the world, in democracies of the world? And then the question, how legitimate is this execution order against Nimisha?
Well, if it was a democracy and a person is convicted of murder, there are only two options. One is either he or she is put to death, or he or she serves a life sentence. Now, in a country like Yemen, which indeed is going through tremendous upheaval under the Houthis and is at war with Israel, there have been civil wars for a long time in Yemen as well. It is nevertheless ruled by Sharia law, and in Sharia law, this is the practice that either the family forgives you because of payment of a sufficient sum according to them, or you are put to death. There is no higher court of appeal, and even if there were, ultimately it is an eye for an eye type of justice. So the legitimacy of the regime has little or nothing to do with this particular case. Let us also understand that the person in the dock is very familiar with Yemen. She's been there, as the Major pointed out, for a long time, since 2008. And so if there is a fallout between her and her partner and a legitimate verdict of murder, because they were in the medical field and you can kill a person with an overdose as well, then it all seems fairly straightforward to me. If she's let off, she's lucky. Her family has come to her rescue. If not, I cannot hold it against the authorities in Yemen.
Javed Ahmed, I'm going to come to you about what were the circumstances in which Nimisha Priya had to take such a brutal step. I mean, a woman who has travelled from Kerala all the way to Yemen to earn a living, and she has partnered with a Yemeni national who, it is being reported, later got married to him. Even while she was married in Kerala, her husband back in Kerala, what would have been the circumstances, those trying circumstances under which Nimisha was forced to kill this man? It is being widely reported that her passport had been confiscated, which means she was not allowed to even travel back and meet her family in Kerala. So these are trying circumstances, and the family of the murdered Yemeni national are not accepting any of these facts that have been raised, that have been put in public preview. So do you think this is a one-sided trial without even hearing Nimisha's side of the story?
This is the unique case in India. This is the first kind of conviction abroad the country, or this is the taken as a historical case first woman, yani Mahila, who got the convicted in murder case. If you see the history of this case, the matter is pending last year 2020, and year 2023, she got convicted in a murder case on a long process. 2023 on the apex court it challenges. The Nimisha is got again apex court hold as a conviction case and a capital punishment. If you see the matter behind the Sharia Kanun, there is a kind of Diyah. Diyah is the kind of compensation. The amount has been offered to the family if the family is agreed to accept, compensation amount around 8.5 crore rupees. The amount has been refused by the family. Then the situation is going to be become more serious. So the entire process is completed by the Indian government counterpart 15 July 2016. The government 25. The government has refused to and has already given a statement that we cannot do more because the Sharia Kanun is having no more option. Meanwhile, there is a Grand Mufti involved in the entire process, and a gentleman approached to the Sharia Mufti in the Yemen. Yemen government got convinced the kind of persuasion on behalf of the Mufti, and since the Indian government have
Yes,
better
but again,
relation.
my question over here is, and Shamshavish, if you could respond to it, answer my question about, again, the question about the legitimacy of the government that is operating Yemen. And if that country and the government, the Houthis that are not being accepted by any country across the globe, with the exception of Iran, do you think there needs to be at this time a campaign that can be led by India with the support of powerful countries, United Kingdom, US, European Union, even the United Nations, international organizations, because there was not an incident too far ago that there were 9 individuals, Yemen nationals, who were executed, shot and killed for their alleged involvement in the killing of a Yemen military official. There was a massive hue and cry that was raised by United Nations and these other countries that are named, calling it an unfair, unjust trial not matching the international law. Why cannot a similar campaign be run in Nimisha's behalf?
Well, look, first we need to understand this, that whether you recognize or not, it's my own country. That's what their own point is. I'm talking on their behalf. So when anyone in the world is not recognizing me, it actually doesn't matter. I am the head of this country, and I am leading this country, so it will be my rules there. So other countries have no role to tell me that how to run my own country. If you remember, even Afghanistan had the similar situation wherein most of the countries were not recognizing the government, but then eventually you had to. So looking at this situation over here, none of the other countries have that role to actually tell them that, look, you are not the right government. It's their land, it's them who have occupied it, or they have the charge of the government, and they have a right to run it the way they want to. Of
Point
course,
is, how fair is the law that is executing Nimisha?
fair, I would agree to it, but then how the look, it is said that land laws will always be applicable. So if that country has a Sharia law, they will use that laws. So at the max that we can do as a Indian government is that we go and negotiate with them, because if in their law it is mentioned that as the earlier speaker said, that the Sharia law is there, so it is for eye for an eye. It is like that. So
Yeah.
if
Again, how many countries across the globe, which are these Islamic nations where Sharia law is implemented with these extremely brutal and uncompromising punishments? I'm also going to, build a contrast, because when Afzal Guru was executed and hanged by death in India, there was so much commotion. There were protests, there were rallies, there were midnight hearings, trial that took place, and it was a much debated, heated topic that consumed the entire nation. And mind you, he was a terrorist. He was a designated terrorist. And as compared to that, there is a woman, she is not Muslim, she is an Indian, or for that matter a foreign national, and she is being executed in a country that is run by Houthis that have been designated as terrorists, and the illegitimacy of that government is something that is accepted, acknowledged by the rest of the world. And the question being, on humanitarian grounds, is this not then the responsibility of the world, of international organizations who raise issues, pass resolutions when victims in Gaza are being killed, when the anti-Semitic rallies, protests, violence that takes place on a large scale, whether in America or in Australia and in other parts of the world? The question is, should it not be the responsibility of these organizations and countries which call themselves democracies in intervening in the matter, raising a voice against something that is of dubious character?
it mean that no murder was done, then I think that these organizations would have step forward. But because of a certain reason, I did something, and because of that repercussions, the person died. So so death happened, that murder happened. My intention was not to kill him, but my intention was to just put him at a base wherein I could get my passport. We could understand that. But if we here in India, we start this kind of a campaign, that wherein that girl should be saved and all of that would help the Indian government to stand more tall and then talk about it with the Yemeni government, and then they could negotiate. This could only create a pressure on the Indian government. But if you think that this would create a pressure on the Yemeni government, it's not possible. Why? Because again, it's their ego that would come in. It's their own government, it's their own land. You have committed a crime, but
exactly my point, that in democracies, that's not how the rule of the law works, versus a country that is governed by Sharia law. And again the question about the legitimacy of Sharia, that do you think in society, in countries that are governed by Sharia law, how acceptable it is, truly on the basis of humanitarian crisis that has emerged in Yemen, in Islamic nations that practice Sharia law. And I will once again give an example of those 9 Yemeni nationals that were killed, that were executed because of their alleged involvement in the killing of a Yemeni military personnel. Again, voices were being raised by United States, United Kingdom, European Union, United Nations, calling it an unfair trial, calling it a trial that was against the international law, calling it a trial that was against humanity. Again, coming back to you, Major Mohammed Ali Shah, how do we tackle this situation? Are we at this point of time, banging our head against the wall? Do you think our association relationship with Iran might help us in, a last-ditch attempt to save Nimisha, and again the very question about how democracies function versus how countries that are ruled under Islamic law, particularly Sharia, are something that are not widely accepted as fair to the human race.
Mega, is this question to me?
Yes.
Okay. Mega, no, firstly, yes, I agree that every country has a right to govern by their own rules. India has a right, Yemen has a right, every country has a right. But at the same time, there's all happened in other countries as well. When there is something like justice, when people, the one who's serving the justice, the judge has to take a call many a times whether this, for example, sentence gets this thing very, very big. It's not something like you would punish someone for a few years. No, it's things it's very big. And sending to get offer. Now, if I would a friend country,
I have to interrupt you. There's poor network on your end. We'll try to fix that. But coming back to you, Gautam, the same question about the contrast between democracies and Islamic nations, particularly practicing such dogmatic laws that are brutal to the extent that it is treated as a crime against humanity. How do we, at a time when a number of Islamic nations, including Saudi Arabia, are moving forward towards becoming more moderate and modernizing themselves, and thereby also altering their laws, making their laws more moderate. How does a country like Yemen, how does the Yemeni government stand in the face of it all?
Well, the only difference, as far as I can see, Megha, is the death penalty. Here in democracies, a lot of places do not have the death penalty, or they use it in very rare circumstances. It's mostly life imprisonment. In Islamic countries, especially for capital crime like murder, the death penalty is used. Also for treason, also for drug smuggling. They have various rules. Now this drug smuggling or drug dealing is punishable by death even in the Far East, in places like Thailand and Singapore. So it isn't a matter of democracy versus Islamic law. The laws are pretty much unique to each country. A lot of them are not averse to implementing the death penalty to act as a deterrent for people, especially in crimes, heinous crimes like murder. I don't see in itself that is something that is against, if you like, modern practice, because different countries have different reasons for implementing the death penalty or not. I think the Sharia is fair enough by offering a chance for the family to forgive if they are compensated to their satisfaction.
Okay.
Now, the Indian government and the various Maulvis, as well as the family of the person in the dock, is doing their best to offer over $1 million in this instance, if this is accepted, because this is a nurse, this is not a millionaire. So if the family is offering $1 million, that's a lot of money for them. if after that it is not accepted, then I cannot blame the country for carrying out its own practices.
Right. All right, I only have as much time. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast, airing your views. We'll keep a close eye on the fate of Nimisha, and here's hoping that, hope against hope, that she comes back safe and sound and is exempted from that death sentence under the Sharia law in Yemen.